Hello everyone. For today's Top Talk session, we have Mr. Wriddhee Maitra with us. Mr. Maitra has more than 2 decades of experience in making people function relevant and better for varied organizations across multiple industries with a keen interest in the field of learning, training, and developmental interventions across the organizational hierarchy. His experiences span across various industry and organization with drastically different styles, culture, scale of business, and complexities, both Indian as well as multinationals. His ability to adapt, understand, unlearn, relearn first has helped him thrive in his professional journey. So, once again, welcome Mr. Maitra for our Top Talk session.
I hope that our interaction would be fruitful for your audience, and together we will be able to take things forward and make things more relevant in the context of the subject that we are going to discuss today.
Okay. So I will directly start with the questions now. So Mr. Maitra, how is the performance of employees managed in the pharmaceutical industry?
Okay. So, Vidisha, before I start talking about the pharmaceutical industry's performance management process, I think broadly we first need to understand how the industry operates. You know, broadly, you can classify pharma into three separate business lines. One is your pure sales and marketing organization or the commercial organization where you have your feet on street or field force and the sales hierarchy, and that they represent you inside a doctor's clinic and promote your brands essentially with a focus of garnering more prescription share and sales. The second one, of course, is your manufacturing, the plant operations of pharma, the plant where your production happens. Okay, so that's the second part, and the third part, of course, is your research and development center, where you would typically have your scientists working on various either new chemical entities or new biological entities or even extensions of your brands. Okay, maybe in the form of dosages, maybe in the form of adding a few new molecules here and there, essentially into research and development. So these are the three verticals uh, of the Indian pharma industry today. The challenge for everyone is to first understand that there cannot be a straitjacket approach to managing performance. Okay, because the person who is doing your sales will have a different kind of work deliverables or key performance indicators, key result areas. So the way you manage him will be drastically different compared to how you manage your plant operators. Someone who is working in a shift purely operating a particular machine which maybe is producing tablets, or purely operating a particular machine which mainly is filling bottles or filling vials for injections, completely different. And then your third, where you have your research colleagues working inside the labs. And believe you me, research is an area where more often than not, the end result is actually negative or a failure rather than a success, because you try a lot of things, but only a minuscule percentage of that actually gets successful and goes to the next level.
Okay.
So these are some of the basic nuances which one needs to keep in context while designing the performance measurement plan or process or whatever it is. So for example, in the commercial team, a lot of it is going to be pure number driven. Okay, very objective parameters. How much has your brands sold? Maybe certain things about your work parameters. Okay, has there been any returns or any damages in terms of expiries of your products in your territory? So easy to manage, but the key here for it is the continuity and the transparency in terms of communication and feedback. That is something that is missing today in most organizations. So I just do it once a year or maybe once in 6 months. It doesn't help. A lot of things then come as a surprise. Can I focus on proper execution of the process consistently with help of technology, digitalization wherever possible, so that the data is sacrosanct and nothing comes as a surprise. For the plant, of course, it is under one roof inside the plant premises. So a lot of it depends on your volumes that you have in terms of orders to manufacture. So easy to manage in terms of parameters. Okay, you have quality parameters, you have volume parameters in the shift, etc. So those are relatively easy. What is important for a plant kind of a setup is the communication piece. Does the last person in my hierarchy, who is perhaps a machine operator, also understand how critical it is in terms of the contribution that he makes on a day-to-day basis in his area of work, and how is his work getting compared, measured vis-a-vis other colleagues? That is very, very critical.
Okay.
The third, of course, is the research and development team, which I mentioned. There, of course, the parameters are absolutely different. As I said, not all parameters would be very, very, what should I say, quantifiable, because a lot of it will be process related.
Correct.
And there you have a different kind of, conversation process, etc. A lot of focus has to happen in terms of feedback sharing and face-to-face communication with these scientists or research fellows or whatever you call them in terms of the the team which works in the R&D setup. Communication becomes important because the nature of their work is such that most of the times they are spending within a particular lab, hardly interacting with people, but mostly interacting with gadgets, devices, test tubes, chemicals, etc. So it becomes important to have these human connect and conversations at a periodic basis, so that he or she is aware of what he or she is doing, what could be the next steps, and aware of how the performance or efforts are yielding results. The results may not be quantifiable, but the employee has to be comfortable in terms of knowing what he she is doing is in the right direction or not.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. So the next question we have is that what are the key gaps in the current pharmaceutical industry practices for managing employees' performance?
Okay, so quite a few gaps, honestly, as of now, and I wouldn't say gaps, I would rather use the word current challenges, because it depends from organization to organization. What is a challenge for me need not be a challenge for another organization which has perhaps a more robust process, or which is perhaps more strong in terms of executing processes. So first and foremost, I think the awareness of why a performance management process is critical at the first line manager level or at the first time team managers level. Okay, that is very, very critical, because typically in the pharma industry, what happens in the Indian context is you have a lot of internal talent who start as individual contributors and gradually take on team management roles.
Correct.
During that transition from an individual good contributor to a first time team manager, unless you are able to communicate on these basic things in terms of why a performance management process is important, what are the do's and don'ts when you are talking or communicating with your team members, why is it important to share feedback and also at times document feedback conversations, that is a huge I would say a gray area today in quite a few organizations, if not most. Okay, unfortunately, the organizations at times are not able to focus their energy in terms of grooming these new first time managers. And as a result of which, what happens is the entire process execution at times gets jeopardized. So that is number one. Number two is a clear source of truth. Okay. When I say a clear source of truth, I'm basically talking about one clear source of data. While in plant and in the R&D kind of a setup, this is still at times manageable with ease, but in the commercial function, sales and marketing function, at times there are various sources of data. The head office culls out a data and says, this is the data for last month. Then you will have someone from the zone saying, no, that is not the data. There are certain things which has not been included in that. So that is very, very critical and important, for us to have a process which is sustainable and which is airtight. Otherwise, you will keep on spending time and energy in challenging the data rather than taking the next steps forward in terms of what is to be done as action items. So, can we have a single source of data which is sacrosanct, which is acceptable to one and all across the hierarchy of the organization? That's number one. Number two, of course, is the continuity. There is churn. Like all other industries, pharma also has churn in terms of attrition. So people keep moving, changing, rotating. Unfortunately, at times, what you realize is when there is a change in the manager, the data, etc., for that particular team goes with that manager.
Okay.
History or trail is generally not created. Okay. Unless you have a very robust process in terms of, consciously documenting what is being done. Can we in today's context, depending on pen and paper for everything is honestly not feasible. Okay, especially with the size of our country, especially with the way pharma industry operates, in terms of reaching to the last mile to every nook and corner of the country. I think technology has to be embraced, and technology can play a huge role in this.
Right.
Okay, not only the source of data, but based on data, whatever communication is happening, discussions are happening, feedback is happening, can that be easily documented in a source, in a system, which is available to the organization at the click of a button?
Right.
And finally, having faith in the system, that will need a lot of senior leadership sponsorship in terms of the process, and also senior leadership's actions. How do you correlate your career development and other compensation benefit related decisions with the outcomes of your performance management process? How much are you able to reduce the influence of individual manager discretion, exception requests, and make it more of a process and system rather than individual dependent? So these are the four broad areas which today I see as challenges that a lot of pharma organizations would be facing, and I'm sure everyone is trying to address them in their own way.
Correct. Correct. Sure. So, what aspect of performance management do you think will improve employee participation in the performance management experience?
I think first and foremost, if I put myself as an employee, okay, I will be interested in that process when two things happen. When I know, yes, there is a value attached to that process, there is something for me in that process. Two, when I trust that process, that this is not just a mundane routine process that happens once or twice a year, but this is a serious process based on which a lot of things depend for me within this organization. So these are the two fundamental pillars, I think, which will help make employees also become more participative as well as engaged with the performance management process. One, building a system which they trust and which they know is transparent in terms of what is being said and done. Second, of course, what is in it for me? They see value in that process. So trust and value, according to me, would be the two pillars.
Sure, sure, sure. Okay, so what tools do you use in managing employees' performance? And are there any challenges that you face with that tool? And what improvement would you like to see in them?
So currently in our organization, I mean, for our commercial team, we still rely on a pen and paper discussion. Okay, so a discussion and then followed by the employee and the manager signing off on a piece of paper with their comments, etc. Uh, for our plant and some of our support functions, we have now moved into a system which is online, okay, where you don't have to, manage pen and paper. You can log in, put in your comments, then your manager logs in, puts in his or her comments, and then the super manager goes and sees and closes with a final rating.
Correct.
Challenges for the pen and paper process, I think major challenge is ensuring 100% execution.
Correct.
Okay, because there would be people who would later on come back and tell you they did not get time and it was
Correct.
not happening, blah blah blah. So how do I manage the process 100% in terms of quality execution within timelines is a major challenge. Okay. Two, also the sanctity of that process being executed. Is there a proper communication happening, discussion happening before a sign off, or is that become a simple ritual that you just come and we sign off a document and send it back to HR, and something like a burden off my shoulder, like a checkbox ticking activity. That's a challenge. So quality of the process execution, to managing the process within timelines with proper execution. These are two big challenges in a pen and paper manual mode. In the system mode, or the automated mode, if you want to use that word, challenge is at times the human interface is missing. Not everything can be shared in a text box irrespective of the size of the text box.
Correct.
Not everything can be shared through drop down options by clicking options. At times, we are all human beings.
Correct.
Let's understand that we are not robots yet, thankfully. Okay, so there are certain things which happen in not only in your mind, but certain things that happen in your heart, certain things that happen in your gut. And at times for humans it is important to get an alignment of your brain, heart and gut. And there I may want to talk, I may want to just verbalize what is going on in me, what are my thoughts, emotions, etc. with my manager. And since I have a system at that, at times that gets compromised. Why do you want to have a conversation when you can just fill up a form and submit it, and I will do it at my own pace, time, etc., and we'll finish it off. So somewhere you have to draw a balance.
Correct.
Apart from using technology, can we have a technology which mandates a conversation as well? Just like, Bidisha and Wriddhee is having this conversation. Can a system come where apart from filling up the form online, there is a conversation that happens and that conversation gets recorded?
Correct.
Okay, and is available at the click of a button for anyone in the hierarchy, whoever, I mean, the right person in the hierarchy or the right function in the hierarchy, to see what was discussed, how it was discussed. Today, at least I can speak for my organization, my system doesn't give me that. This is something that I'm living with right now. At the right opportune moment, when I get a chance, I would be happy if I get something of this sort.
Correct. So what you are saying is there should be a blend of people's touch as well as the system or the
Absolutely.
robot or the
There
machine.
has to, yes, there has to be a blend of technology.
Yeah.
Now, whether technology is using AI, whether technology is just using, big data from the
That's
back
another
end,
story. Yeah.
whatever, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But only technology is not going to help, especially when you're talking about performance management process.
Correct.
There has to be a human interface, whether face to face or whether on that platform is different. But it has to be a blend of both technology as well as face to face conversations.
Correct. I absolutely agree with this one because it's a very like valid point which you are saying right now. Okay, so next is could you discuss the potential implication of OKRs in the performance management system on the pharmaceutical sector?
So the biggest dilemma, okay, with OKRs or KRAs or goals or KPIs, whatever you want to use in terms of the jargon or acronym,
Correct.
is to decide whether this has to be top down or should it be bottoms up.
Correct.
In the sense, if I am the head of HR, for my team members within HR, should the OKRs or KPIs flow as per my KPIs to them, or should we first discuss what they are going to do as per KPIs and then let it roll up to me? That's the biggest dilemma for me as of now. Okay. What is the balancing act that we do today? So at the head office or the office support function level, until maybe the second line manager level in a commercial structure, we have top down approach, which basically means first we understand and decide what the country would want to achieve in this particular business year. Okay.
Correct.
And then what you do based on that, you decide what the country leadership, the country HR head, the country CFO, maybe the country general manager, the country business head, manufacturing head, what is it that they are going to pick up as their key result areas or whatever you want to call it, or goals for that year. And then share it one level down.
Mm-hmm.
From that, you share one level down, and then people start taking things as per their relevance. So that's what we do till about a second line manager level. For my sales team, which is my feet on street, and the first line manager level, what we do is we have standard KRAs or KPI parameters for them. Okay. As you rightly mentioned, it could be 4-5 line items.
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing that changes for them is the measuring criteria.
Correct.
Okay, because the role is very same. If Vidisha is a medical representative and if Wriddhee is a medical representative, the role is absolutely same.
Correct.
Vidisha may be doing a medical representative's role in Mumbai, Wriddhee may be doing it in Pune. Okay, but the KRAs or KPIs or OKRs for this role remains same. What changes is maybe the parameters in terms of the quantities or the measures. For Vidisha's sales figures, maybe 5 lakhs annually could be meets expectation. The same for Wriddhee could be 10 lakhs as meets expectation.
Correct.
Similarly, doctor call average, the effort parameters, the measures could be different for Vidisha depending on what kind of business, geography, etc. But overall, the parameters would remain same. So the areas in which we will be measured, our performance will be measured is same. The measuring parameters in terms of the quantities or the measures could be different. That's how we manage the the rep level and the first line manager level. The same thing we do even at plant. The parameters are similar, the measures could change. However, from top down till about a second line manager level, even in plant as well as in commercial team, there a lot of things flows down. And as you flow down the hierarchy, most of the OKRs or KRAs or KPIs tend to become more objective, which are numbers driven, which can be clearly seen. The more you go up, the gray areas or the subjective areas tend to become more.
Okay.
There could be projects, etc., which are not decided at the beginning of the year, but you know very well that there would be projects coming in. Okay, there could be new initiatives, okay, which exactly cannot be quantified, but at a senior level, you will have to, park some weightage on that particular area. So that's how currently we manage KPIs, KRAs in this industry. This is what I'm doing right now in our organization. Prior to this, I have worked in a couple of more well-known large-scale pharma organizations. There also, the process is very, very similar as of now.
Okay. Okay. And the last question we have is, what do you think the future of performance management will look like for the pharmaceutical industry?
Interesting. The last question is, I think, the most interesting question because it talks about the future and whether we like it or not. Future is something that none of us can actually predict. We can only visualize or imagine what it should look like. Having said that, I think the influence of technology is going to be more and more when it comes to managing the performance management process, not only in pharma industry, but also other industries. Because as I said, data sanctity, source of data, creating history, in terms of the data process, what is being done, I think those are things where you would have to go back and depend a lot in terms of technology. The other thing that I would be keenly observing is the predictive analysis or index that the system can throw. Whether it is AI, whether it is simple data crunching based on trends, can my PMS system throw up trends saying that, okay, these are places or these are employees who may not achieve their annual budget given the trend that we see in the first 6 months. Today, a lot of that is done by individual managers based on gut feel, experience, whatever we want to term it as. But can technology make that prediction a little bit more watertight, less error prone? That is going to be very, very critical. The last, of course, is going to be a hybrid system or a hybrid platform where not only do you use technology to a great extent, you also blend it very well with the human touch and human connect piece. And all these things will have to be easily accessible for employees. Gone are the days when people would want to sit and focus for 1 hour for a conversation. Everything now has to happen on the go. You will have to make it user friendly in terms of devices, gadgets, etc. While you do that, you will also have to ensure that the process remains as airtight as possible, and making it clearly a system which can be trusted by one and all, and where everyone sees value in that particular process and that particular platform.
Okay. So thank you. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much. Thank you once again for giving your time, and it was very insightful, and it was lovely interacting with you.
Thank you so much, Vidisha, for having me today for this session. And it was a pleasure interacting with you. And let's look forward to what is in store for us as we progress in terms of performance management processes,
Sure.
specifically for Indian pharma industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Okay. Bye bye.
And bye bye.